Hello everyone, welcome back to Mission Shop. This is a quick series video for lathe skill process. And now we will continue our third lesson, which is the facings and turning process. Without any further ado, let's dive in. Now, we start our first process on lathe machine we call a facings process. Facing is the first step on the lathe machine's process. So we need to make sure this surface are clean, flat, and look shiny. And then we need to make sure also this area we can get a 90 degrees. Why facing process are important? Because it will refer to our datums. If we set the datum wrongly, and then we can get a wrong dimension on our parts. That's why first step of machining on lathe, we need to do the facing process. To do the facing process, we need to touch two surfaces first to set the datum, here and here. But before we do that, we need to align our cutting tool first. This is the best position how we want to align the cutting tools. Align the cutting tool also are important. Every cutting tools you set on two posts must be aligned with the tool life center. This is the tool life center that we will place it into the tail stalks. So this is the best position to check the cutting tool tips, and then the tool life center tip are on the same levels. Once you already align your cutting tools, and then you need to turn or bring your tool post to the normal position as this, and then bring your cutting tool close to the materials, and then you can start on the machines. Okay, move your y-axis until your cutting tool just a slightly touch on that surface until you see one circles. Once you notice that a small circles on that surface, then you can move your x-axis on backwards. Okay. Press your y-axis to 0. Move your y-axis to roughly 0.5, and then need to do cutting on x-axis. So you need to move your x-axis in until reach at the center of the workpiece. Once you reach at the center, then move your y-axis backwards, and then you can stop the machine to check the surface. As you can see, now this is a shining and flat surface. This is called facing process, the first step process on the lathe machines. Now, we move to our second process. We call it turning process or lathing process. Okay. Normally, turning or lathing process is the process to reduce the diameter according to the drawing. For the turning process, there are two datum you need to set. Before this, on facing process, only one datum we set, which is in y-axis. But for now, we need to set two datum. First datum, we need to touch this surface to set y to 0, and then we need to touch this surface to set our x on 0. Actually, for the x-axis datum, there are two methods you can use. One, you can use the incremental method. The second one, you can use the absolute method. Okay, in this video, I'll show you absolute method. Absolute method, we just key in direct diameter into the DRO, and then we reduce the diameter according to the drawing. That's we call the absolute method. But somehow other people like to use the incremental method. But for me, I like to use the absolute method. Incremental method, just touch this surface and then set your x to 0. So I will show you absolute method. First step, bring our close to the workpiece, slightly touch, okay, until you see a small cutting or small circles. Then retract your x-axis. So after you retract your x-axis, you need to press your y to 0. Now we already set the datum y to 0. Okay, move our tool away because we need to touch on this surface. Okay, just move your X until you see one small line. Once you notice there are one line there, and then now you can set datum on your x-axis. Okay, in this video I will show you absolute. Then to set the absolute datums, you need to press X. Okay, press X, then key in the diameter. Before this, I already measured this. Is about 48.5, and then you need to put it negative, press enter. Then retract your x-axis and then retract your y-axis. Next, let's say you have a 1 mm to cut it. So before this is a 48.5. Okay, now the actual diameter is a 48.5, and then you need to cut 1 mm. Just turn or move your x-axis to 47.5. Okay,
Move your y-axis until negative 30 mm.
retract your x, retract your y, and then stop the machine. Okay. This is how it looks after we do the turning process. So we reduce a 1 mm diameter of the 48.5 and now 47.5 mm diameter. Okay everyone, that's all for our third lesson, facings and turning process. I hope this video is useful to you guys. Okay, and until we meet to a next video on the fourth lesson, drilling process on lathe machine. Okay, please like, share and subscribe this video. Till we meet on the next video. Bye.